Hello and welcome to Enterprise Apps. We're in San Francisco, Mel. We're live from Microsoft Ignite. This episode, we're breaking down the major announcements that we're seeing from Microsoft. So, Mel, as analysts, we saw not just product launches, but some strategic shifts that are shaping the next era of enterprise AI. So, how are we doing today? And
Doing good, doing great. I mean, we're here live in San Francisco, although we're both coming out here from our respective hotel rooms because that's the way we have to record sometimes. So we go with it. But yeah, it's been a great couple of days. I think quick before we get started, our usual disclaimer. This show is for information and entertainment purposes only. While we do discuss publicly traded companies on the show, its contents should not be taken as investment advice. So yeah, it's been a great couple of days. It's actually been gorgeous in San Francisco, which, thanks Microsoft for ordering us such lovely weather. Um, we don't always get that here, right? But yeah, let's start out with frontier firms. This concept is coming from a new Microsoft and Harvard H3 initiative. From
Mhm.
frontier firms are organizations that are human led, agent operated, and put AI at the core of their strategy. A lot of this comes from the work on the Microsoft Work Trend Index that shows that the firms that really need to rethink operations, innovation, building models for real human AI collaboration. So it's not just about deploying tech, but about amplifying human capacity and reinventing business process.
Yeah, so in practice, what changes for leadership? I think that's kind of an important question. Is this mostly about upskilling execs, or do you see a deeper shift in how companies actually define management and workflows?
Yeah, there's a big research push here. Harvard's group is running field experiments with companies like EY, MasterCard, and Nestle to define how new operating models for AI first work patterns, things like their agent boss theory. Everyone's going to end up being an agent boss, and we'll kind of get into some of that in a bit with some of the announcements. But yes, it is skills for execs for all employees, but also just core structural changes in how firms design roles around agentic support. So there's a luncheon here today in San Francisco that I'm attending, so I'll have a lot more to share on that. I'm excited for that. It'll be fun.
Great. And we have both independently written a couple of papers on this. So I think we could probably put that in the show notes. I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But there's also some other highlights that we actually have a ton to go through, but we'll talk a little bit now about Microsoft, Nvidia, and Anthropic. They announced some multi-billion-dollar partnerships. I think that's pretty significant with Anthropic is scaling its Claude models on Azure using Nvidia's latest hardware. So Anthropic will buy 30 billion in Azure compute and contract up to a gigawatt, while Nvidia and Microsoft commit up to 15 billion in investments. God, those are big numbers. So this means Azure's clients get expanded access to Claude. I think a lot of people like Anthropic Claude, and on top of OpenAI models and the hardware optimization, they could drive agentic more efficiently.
Yeah. Bringing Claude to Foundry and Copilot changes the model landscape. So, does Anthropic's partnership with NVIDIA, do you think this means we'll see more efficient multimodal agents in Microsoft 365?
I would think that's the goal. They're collaborating on optimizing future, NVIDIA um, architectures for Anthropic workloads and vice versa. So this gives Microsoft 365 really the users a broader choice and lets enterprises mix and match models based on workflow and what they need. So it's also a security conversation. So Agent 365 aims to manage, observe, and quarantine these rogue or potential rogue agents so enterprises can deploy AI confidently. And that's the security is something we'll talk about a little bit more, but I think a big part of this as well.
Yeah. I think that more and more vendors are having these multi-model options, third-party models, and the choices the choices are becoming more and the models are changing so quickly, so it's just a matter of how do you keep them all contained, how do you kind of know which one to use at which time. So a lot of that that's part of the big change management that we talk about quite often, which is learning these new models and their personalities and their traits and kind of figuring out how to work with them. So the next big layer is Work IQ. Work IQ, Microsoft announced, it's becoming the intelligence fabric behind Copilot and AI agents in Microsoft 365. So Work IQ builds contextual memory inference and connects the organizational work chart, not just the org chart. So that's kind of in frontier language. This lets Copilot and agents reason across files, meetings, workflow history to deliver kind of the higher quality, more relevant results. So for end users, it means these are going to be more personalized, more iterative outputs without jumping between multiple apps.
So this is powering contextual understanding. Agents know how you work, who you work with, and recommendations and automations are grounded in real business process. So I like that.
Yeah. So, if you look at this, it's like I think there were some questions around like, okay, how is this different than Graph?
Mm-hmm.
So Microsoft Graph actually is embedded within Work IQ. So it does still pull from the Graph, but I like this, that it's a move not just towards productivity, because there's been so much talk about it. It's going to make you more productive, but what does that really mean? It's really giving you that efficiency at scale. And so that contextual memory especially should mean that Copilot gets better over each time with each user and team.
Which is great. And there's so many announcements. It's unbelievable how many they had. I think they say that this is one of their biggest years of so many announcements. But we get into Fabric IQs. Microsoft expanded Fabric to be more of a unified data estate. So they're bringing databases, analytics, AI agents under one platform. I think this is something that a lot of their customers have wanted, but Fabric IQ is a new workload that adds a semantic layer on top of the enterprise data, so AI agents can work with real business concepts instead of raw tables. So it draws on existing Power BI models and it uses ontologies to map these relationships across the entities. And I think the Power BI component is a big deal. So this gives operation agents enough context to monitor activity, understand what's happening, and act on human oversight. So that's all pretty significant with the observability component. But Microsoft says that Fabric IQ brings this new intelligence layer without new licensing fees for the current Fabric users. And this can be, as we talk a lot about verticals, it can be a good use case for finance or supply chain and healthcare, where context and compliance drive a lot of different outcomes. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the big question is what will govern data sovereignty and privacy here?
Well, I think that they're emphasizing that these integrations are more native and with the inference, so they're not piecing together a lot of different connectors. So they're focusing on that governance from that perspective. But one thing that just came out also, I think a lot of people are very excited about, is Fabric is now able to connect with SAP Live Data across SAP's Business Data Cloud, DataSphere, and S4 HANA. So what they're claiming is that it's a zero copy bi-directional data sharing. So this eliminates the need for duplicate or copying data, keeping everything more secure, consistent, and automatically up to date for analytics, reporting, and things of that nature, but on both platforms. So that is from the security perspective and governance that will evolve. And also with Agent 365 observability plus Work IQ's ability, for those custom policies. So they say that there's a lot going on there.
There is, yeah. There's, like you said, there's so many different announcements. We'll move on to Agent Factory. Agent Factory is about modular agent creation. So companies can build, scale, and manage task-specific agents assemble interoperable stacks with the Microsoft Foundry for rapid innovation. So this kind of mitigates the agent sprawl, and it makes it easier to enforce policies, track behavior. Like you said, like that observability is really important there.
Do you see adoption challenges? And we always talk about change management, and this is especially a big deal with legacy systems.
Yeah. I think that, the integration, of course, is going to be key, but I think the modularity should help firms test and adapt the agent systems without major system overhauls. I mean, yesterday in some of the panels that we attended, I thought it was really interesting to hear Microsoft's like chief AI officer, I don't remember her exact title, but she said something really smart about like, this isn't always a tech problem. This is quite often a people problem. And so, yes, that integration is going to be key, but having those test environments, those sandboxes, like being able to the modularity of it, I think will hopefully make that easier.
We've been talking about change management for a long time, and it's such a key component because people are not all created equal, and I think that they lots of the vendors characterize the personalities at different companies or their customers as being the same, and I think it's far from that, and they have to really be able to adapt to the customer needs, meet them where they're at, and what do they have to have in place to be um, to handle this change, be strategic, and potentially even have AI training. So
Yeah, and so much of that is how do people know what's going on in the organization and where where the agents fit in with their workflows, and that's where people are really trying to figure things out right now. I mean, I think in the beginning there was a little bit of is AI going to take my job? But now we're seeing use cases that are really successful, but people still aren't entirely sure how do they govern and manage these agents. And so one of the next announcements, actually, Microsoft Agent 365, is what they're calling kind of the centralized control plane for AI agents. So it's designed for observability, monitoring, managing, and securing agents at enterprise scale. So they're able to implement risk policies and lifecycle management, really give that full view of what all the agents are doing and monitor them. So
So the agent factory is about creations. Agent 365 is about control, or which
yeah, I mean,
do you
I
see it?
think that helps. That does help to explain it a bit, and I think it also helps that division should help firms become kind of more true frontier organizations with bringing that innovation with the governance.
So as we continue with these whirlwind of updates, we have Microsoft 365 Copilot. Updates include agent mode and Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and I think they're generally available now, specifically Word with Excel supporting Claude and ChatGPT for reasoning. This is great stuff. So industry use cases are expanding. Finance teams are using Copilot for regulatory workflow, sales for pipeline planning, healthcare for clinical documentation reduction. So lots of really interesting things here.
Yeah, there was a great demo yesterday with this, and sometimes you think like, are these canned demos or what's happening? It was pretty promising, I'm going to say. We've been told by many vendors, like you can make, hit this button and it's going to make you a beautiful PowerPoint. How many times has that like just been like major fail? But they did one yesterday that actually I was pretty impressed. So I'm gonna like save my full judgment for having some hands-on time with it, but the ability to generate high quality docs and presentations in Copilot chat plus multi-step workflows and team channels where you can integrate Jira, Asana, and others means that Copilot is potentially moving from more of an assistive tool to a more true collaborative agent. again, I want to see that PowerPoint magic happen. That would make my life way easier, all of our lives, especially like our ops team.
Yep.
But these advancements are happening so quickly. If you try something last month, you could try it again this month. It could be totally different. So
Yeah.
definitely looks promising on that one. And I think we cannot wrap this up. We still have Zoho to talk about just because they had some really big news this week. But I think we have to talk about Windows. The Windows ecosystem has remained as critical as the canvas for agentic AI. The ability to invoke agents directly from the taskbar, have this streamlined search, and enable multi-tap reasoning. I think these are all kind of things that are adding up to a more frictionless work across the platform. Did you see some of that?
Yeah, I mean the Windows AI stack puts Copilot and agents at the heart of enterprise productivity. It's a foundational for verticals with a heavy desktop investment. So yeah, it's definitely going in that direction that you mentioned.
Yeah, and I think if they can integrate all of these advancements and announcements and applications, in many ways, Windows will become the canvas for AI. So couldn't
Yep.
end up wrap that up without that.
So the common thread is convergence. Microsoft is integrating data, AI, agentic workflows to empower those frontier firms that we first started talking about. There's still plenty to watch around governance, interoperability, and industry specific adoption and, you know, data strategies. How's that?
Yeah, I agree. These announcements are an inflection point on the journey to human-led, agent-operated organizations. Human-led, agent-operated, agent-assisted. I mean, it's exciting time. It's exciting space to be in. And we'll continue to watch. And like I said, I'm going to have this frontier lunch today, so I'm sure I'll hear even more about that. But I think in general, there's just been a lot here to digest. But it's been a great event. Um, Always done nicely by the Microsoft team, and they treat us well. And we got to see so many fun things over at the expo hall last night. I think so many of the companies that we work with are here: IBM, Box, HP, you name it, they're here. So that was fun. And we also saw our friends at Zoho. And did you hear about the new Zoho One update they just announced this week? Got to talk about this one.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice walking around on the show floor, and we saw them, and yeah, I heard about the Zoho One, and the Zoho team was very excited to learn more about it and the visual collaboration the platform has. So I like the style that they're going towards in the unified platform.
Yeah, they told us about Vani, which is their visual collaboration platform, kind of like a Mira or Lucid, but in Zoho style. But this is a really big deal. Zoho One launched many years ago. I think it was like 2017. Um, and they have completely reimagined it to offer a unified experience across all 50 apps. That includes Vani as well. So they're really focusing on removing any boundaries between apps and making everything really connected. You've been at Zoholics, their user conference, and when they ask people in the room, how many of you use 20 or more Zoho apps, or hands up, how many use 30, hands up, like it goes up. And there are so many people who use all of these apps. So to have this way that makes everything really connected, it's really helpful for, when you're going from, say, invoicing to a document to your email to, your collaboration app, to have everything kind of in this Zoho One environment.
Yeah, I mean, going to the unified experience, and I mean that is a big deal where AI is embedded all the way throughout. They have a ton of great customers, so this sounds so interesting, and the customers are probably looking for what they're delivering here. So I'd say, or what would you say is the most significant beyond what I just said, what they're doing, and what do you think that the customers take will be on this?
So they've introduced something called Spaces, which it helps to organize apps into categories. So like your personal space, your organizational space, and department spaces. All of it's customizable, so employees can tailor it to their needs, or individual entrepreneurs or solopreneurs can tailor it to their needs. And there's an action panel there that aggregates all of your tasks, and then any approvals, anything like basically anything that like is waiting for you, you're waiting on, into one place.
Hmm. So
It's
that go ahead. You're about to say something.
no, no,
No, no. It's like super smart. So it sounds like this should all be like is it an efficiency tool? It saves a lot of time, or if it's a practical, unification, it gives the users more ability to be smarter, to be more using their platform in a different way.
yeah, they've also created this dashboard. And in the dashboard, you can consolidate a bunch of data from all connected apps, even third party apps, into one location. So you can personalize it with widgets, you can use pre created dashboards. These are powered by Zoho Analytics. And the dashboards, you can have multiple dashboards. So my dashboard could show me everything, like say, I'm a retailer. I could have everything in my sales, my marketing, pipeline. I mean, everything, and you can see everything in like one look on these dashboards, but you can also tailor it to different needs. So if I'm going to be presenting it to like a finance team, I can get like all the numbers and do that. If I'm going to be presenting it to the growth team, I'm going to give, a different, I'm going to plug in different connected apps. So it's really tailored, but it also gives you kind of what we keep hearing people say, it's like this front door to work. It's like you open up your browser and you have everything that you need to know for your day right there, and then you can also tailor it to exactly what you need to see at any given time. So pretty smart stuff.
That's huge for businesses. We were just talking with about Microsoft integrations and things of that nature. So I think that's a big or an important topic. So what about integrations? Is Zoho known for that? I believe that they are, but
Yep.
what do you think?
Yeah, they've really actually enhanced their integration capabilities as well. There's a unified integration panel that gives um, administrators visibility into all of the integrations. So whether it's Zoho to Zoho, Zoho to third party, or even third party to third party, they've added features like smart offboarding, which is just to simplify the process of transferring responsibilities and managing employee data when somebody leaves. Those are like work intensive situations where these are all, they've got everything hooked up. Like you can even hook up Workday into your HR platform. And, so it just makes it everything all in the same kind of simplified dashboard.
So that's pretty useful. And let's get into a little bit about AI. So Zoho has been doing some pretty cool stuff with Zia. That's their AI assistant. What can we talk about with that?
Yeah, Zia. It's funny that, do you know that Zia was actually built just for internal purposes? They built Zia like to help them.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot, we hear a lot about like, customer zero, um, where, like ServiceNow runs on ServiceNow, and, everybody's, they're companies are building a lot of things for themselves and then realizing that there's like an actual commercial application here. So Zia is really front and center now. It's integrated across all of Zoho One apps. So that really helps kind of like Work IQ to provide this aggregated intelligence.
Hmm.
They've added Zia Hubs, which organizes company data like contracts and meeting notes into dedicated spaces. And then soon you'll be able to ask Zia. So in the toolbar, you can get these contextual insights and answers across all of your apps. So it's a lot.
That is a lot. That sounds like it will make decisions, I mean, a lot simpler, a lot easier. So this is fantastic.
Yeah. And I think pretty impressive. And also just sort of Zoho style. They're keeping the price the same. So this is a major overhaul, the biggest overhaul of Zoho One since its introduction, and they're keeping the price the same. So $37 per user per month, and you get access to all of those apps plus the dashboard and everything. I'm a Zoho user, so I think you are too, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Their system is I would say pretty easy to use, and the more features that they add to it will probably just continue with their uptick. I think they're impressive. It sounds like they're really focused on making businesses more efficient without adding costs. So it's great.
Yeah. And also just very Zoho style, they really concentrate on security and privacy, which is a big deal. Zoho owns its entire tech stack, so they really focus on making sure that they're ensuring reliability and compliance, and they've added features like customer-defined encryptions and tools for managing authentication and access.
Yeah, that's reassuring. So we talked a lot about security and governance with Microsoft, and so many companies rely on Zoho, and so it's good to know that security is prioritized, and it has to be. It's going to be a big topic for 2026, I believe.
It is, and Zoho is really trying to tackle this chaos of fragmented technology and make everything kind of more streamlined and easier to use. So I think this update could be a pretty big game changer for their customers. And given that you see Zoho customers being from like an individual solopreneur to small, medium businesses up all the way to enterprise. And so this is something that's built for a company of any size or even an individual. So,
I agree, and it sounds like Zoho is really trying to set themselves apart from their competitors, and they're offering this unified, integrated platform. So that is a differentiator from their perspective, probably from ours as well. So I'll have to check it out.
yeah. Well, we got a lot out here. We're gonna have to do another pod because we have so much to catch up on over the last couple of weeks. I think maybe we'll do one Friday.
Yep.
Um, I'll be in Las Vegas for the Las Vegas Grand Prix with
Wow.
T-Mobile. I know, excited about that. That's a big one after we just got done with the NFL with AWS. Running all over the world, going to cool tech sporting events is kind of, I'm not mad at it, but it's a lot of work, but don't feel sorry for me. But yeah, so later this week, we'll have to catch up on the many events we've attended and some big news from, you were at, is it Quad or
Uh,
QAD?
Well, QAD, I wrote a really significant report on how manufacturing is changing, and then I was at IFS, which is a competitor of them, and Commvault, which is data protection, and plus I wrote a report also on Rubrik, which is their competitors. But speaking of data protection, you were at Veeam,
I was
and
the
then
analyst on it. Yep. And I was at Smartsheet Engage. And then we've got some news from Adobe on their brand concierge and what they're doing with kind of LLM optimization, which is very interesting. Adobe was also here at Microsoft Ignite. And then there's just like this little streak of UC acquisitions. So Mitel, Zoom, and Cisco have all made pretty significant acquisitions over the last week or so. So we'll talk about that. But you're going to have to wait until Friday to see that. But thank
sounds
you for
good.
joining us in our special episode live from Microsoft Ignite. It was great being here, and I'm sure that we'll have more coming out of this. I know we'll have some additional opinions and analysis from Patrick Moorhead, from Jason Anderson, and from Anshul Sag, each in their own swim lane. So stay tuned, and we'll catch up on more of Microsoft Ignite, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You can end it.